good, Jay. All right, Jay, is it okay if I take this out of your pocket?
Sure.
Can I take that out there?
Yeah.
There you go. Perfect.
Now, wait a minute. What did you say your name was again?
Heather. Just
Okay,
think about,
Heather.
Just think about feather, like a feather.
Oh, Heather, yeah, all right.
I have a twin sister, and that's how people remember us. My hair's more feathery, and Holly's is
Okay,
long.
Heather.
But if that helps you at all. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Okay. All right, Jay.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Jay, can you tell me your full name?
Well, yeah, you have to have my middle name.
Well, you don't have to.
Well, my middle name is Edwin. And the last name is Kramer with a K. K-R-A-M-E-R, Kramer, yes.
What branch in the military did you serve?
Well, I wound up in the Air Force, Army Air Force. It was called that before it came officially Air Force in 47. So.
What division did you serve in the Army?
Well, in the Army, I took the basic, in just regular basic, and then when I got overseas, became in the quartermasters for just a few weeks, and then transferred to the Air Force. They was picking up many people as they could, for a lot of GIs were getting out by their numbers, by their length of duty. So they just went around and got people to transfer to different parts of the service, and one of mine was picked to go to the Air Force. That's how I wound up in the Air Force. So it was in the communications part of the Air Force, and I went to school for about 3 months. It was a crash course in Morse code. If you could learn Morse code in 3 months, you're doing pretty good. And I never got real adept at it, but when I was stationed in Tokyo, that was my job, was to get in contact with airplanes that was flying in from Okinawa, and I had to get sent weather reports and landing instructions to the airplanes that came in. That was the group that I was in duty. That's what we had to do. And I was, like I say, a lot of it was by Morse code. And if you ever had to do anything in Morse code, it was pretty hard to learn in 3 months' time. Some of them guys could talk Morse code just as easy as they could natural language, but you had to do it for a long while before you could get that good at it. And I never got that good at it, because then by the time I served a while then before I was discharged. So it was interesting work, but I'm sure some of the guys that I talked to that was flying in from Okinawa was probably like to see a more qualified person to talk to, because I was not very good at the Morse code. You just don't learn that in 3 months' time. We had the crash course always in Tokyo, and you don't learn that quick, Morse code that quick. So, but I did as best I could. That's it.
So what was your job in the service? Just doing Morse code?
Well, just doing this, what I just said, sending. We were stationed right in Tokyo, and we just planes that was flying in from Okinawa to Tokyo. Haneda Air Force Base in Tokyo, and we just sent. We was told what to tell them to get with the weather reports, whatever the weather was in Tokyo, and then landing instructions, whatever. If you had somebody on board, or they had somebody on board, it was a VIP or something, we had to get make arrangements for transportation after they got into the airbase to wherever they was going. That's what we did. Yeah.
Stepping back a little bit, how did you get entered into the service?
And into it, well, I was when I was a farmer, and I and most of my friends there was all farmers, and when we registered for the draft, then we got exempted for a few times because farmers was pretty important to the world. I mean, to the Air Force. I mean, to the services, as far as food was concerned. So that's why I was deferred for 6 months, and then I would have kept on getting deferred. But my friend's best friend, he went to the service, and I just didn't like. I just wanted to go myself. So I didn't. I turned down all chances for deferment, and I told draft me. So I did. I went to service then, and but I was not quite. I was 19 when I went to service, and I took basic training in Texas, campaign in Texas, and then after I got through basic, immediately we sent to California. We was stationed in Fort Ord, California for this short period of time, then went overseas and landed in Yokohama in Japan, and took train up to where we was stationed in Tokyo. And then I was in Tokyo in the quartermasters for several months. Then I was promoted to. When you first got overseas, every GI was promoted from private to PFC, and then when I said PFC, I was promoted to sergeant, and that was when while I was in the quartermaster, and then I went from there into the Air Force, and from there, that's where I stayed from there on until I was discharged. The schooling was right in Tokyo. It was picked as so many that they thought we would be adapted to learning Morse code quick. Well, we've done our best, but like I say, it was awful hard to learn Morse code and do that, what we had to do in a short period of time. But they needed people for the guys that had been in for a long period of time, seen a lot of action, and was ready for discharge. So that's what we took their place. And that's why we was not exactly adapted to being real good at that kind of stuff. But that was my duties all the time I was in the Air Force until I was discharged myself.
Were you involved in any invasions, even though you were on the side of the radio?
On what?
Were you involved in any invasions, even though it was like more on the side of the radio?
Division?
Invasions.
Oh, no. That was all over with. When I was in basic, they dropped the bombs. And that was what ended everything. You know, that was the one thing that we was all probably destined to go for the invasion of Japan itself. But then Japan surrendered after they dropped the bombs. That was a questionable thing. A lot of people later on had questions about, you know, the bombs killed an awful lot of civilians, but it saved the life of an awful lot of GIs too. Because if we'd had to invade Japan, it would have been a long, long, drawn-out thing. Because Japanese were good at living underground. And that was evidenced in Okinawa, where everything was in caves. There was an awful lot of GIs. They had to just dig them out of the caves, and there was an awful lot of casualties in Okinawa. If you read on Okinawa, there was a lot of GIs got killed in Okinawa, getting the Japanese out of there. That's why when they got ready to invade Japan, it took an awful lot of troops to do it, because Japan was probably mostly caves. I mean, they was prepared for an invasion. And then that's why Truman decided to drop the bombs, and that ended it. And that was it. There was a lot, like I say, there was a lot of civilians killed in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. That's where the 2 bombs was dropped, and it killed an awful lot of civilians. But the bombs was pretty well wiped out everything for quite a large area. The atomic bombs was just, everything was disintegrated. The only thing was left, we traveled along from when we landed in Yokohama and went by train up to Tokyo, and you could see the destruction from the atomic bombs when we traveled up there. You never got near the center or where the bombs was dropped, because there was still radioactivity, from atomic bombs. That was what killed so many people, was the actual radioactivity. And when you could see the only thing left was Japan had an awful lot of concrete smokestacks. And they must have burned a lot of coal in Japan, evidently, because the only thing left standing was them concrete smokestacks. It didn't destroy them, that bomb, but it wiped out everything else. There was nothing left, absolutely nothing. And of course, like I say, a lot of civilians got killed, and that's where there was a lot of people. I suppose some of them thought that was inhuman, but it saved the life of an awful lot of GIs, because it would have been to invade Japan would have been an awful hard thing to do. So that was why I think most GIs thought it was a thing to do. And most everybody that I ever talked to that was involved in this service agreed that it was a thing to do, to drop the bombs. That was, like I say, an awful lot of deaths caused by the 2 atomic bombs. But it was a necessary thing.
Where were you on VJ Day, on victory in Japan.
I had just completed my basic training. We was just completed basic training, and on VJ Day, because there was a lot of celebration, but then being in basic training, you never got in on much of the celebration because it was still it was out down in Camp Fadden, Texas, and if these old temporary places for training, there's none of them are left now. Camp Fadden, I'm sure, is gone. It was a little ways from Tyler, Texas. I don't know if you heard of Tyler, Texas. It was east of, I think it was east of Dallas. Anyway, that was where was when VJ Day, and then we got sent home for a short period of time. Everybody did after they got a basic before we sent overseas. I went from out to Fort Ord, California for a short period of time, and where they got formed enough to fill a ship to send overseas. We went over on what they called a general ship, which is the name of ours was General Weigel, Weigel, and that was all them ships was named after generals, and it held 5,000 troops, and we went over, left San Francisco in October, I think about October the 5th. I got to Japan in about the 20th. It's about I think it was a 13-day trip overseas. That's how long it took to get from San Francisco to Yokohama, Japan. And it was mostly very stormy. We went, and I was extremely seasick. As was a lot of people. I was not a Navy person, and when you up in them ships, and there's a lot of storms. They said the waves was 40 feet high wave. If you was ever on a big ship, and when it went up on a wave, and the props came out of the water, and then when they come back down in the water, the ship would shudder, and that made everybody got more sick. Your seasickness was very. That was a miserable thing. I never want to be. I wasn't like a very good sailor. So that was my experience as far as getting overseas. Is in October, and then from then on it was going up to Tokyo and being in the quartermaster for a short period of time, and then into the Air Force.
So you got drafted when you were 19. So
Yes.
tell me about when you heard about Pearl Harbor, because you would have been at home.
Oh, Pearl Harbor?
Yeah.
Well, I was a senior in high school at Pearl Harbor. Yes. We all heard that, listened to that on the radio, when Pearl Harbor happened. And it was quite the people was all quite upset over that, because Pearl Harbor was it changed the whole nation, because we went from this civilian life to wartime, and the United States done an awful good job of doing that. The people really took hold and adapted to warfare. And everything had to be rationed, and everything back then in the 40s, we all went. Everything was rationed. You got this so much gas to drive, and all that was, and tires. You had, as far as getting tires, was next to impossible. So a lot of people drove around on tires that was next to nothing, but you had to get by because everything was went to the military, and that was the way everybody accepted that and pitched in. And the United States really, that's how they won the war, by doing that. I mean, it made everybody mad. Pearl Harbor did. That was a sneak attack and all that by the Japanese. And I think the United States, the people really, everybody got upset. I mean, the United States really got mad, and that's how we defeated, as far as that goes, was determined. And of course, immediately, a lot of people, younger guys, about 18 of them, all volunteered. And of course, there was a draft immediately. But I finished high school, and then, like I say, I was 16 when I was a senior. So as soon as we registered for the draft, and then all of us, most everybody around where I lived was farmers. We was all farmers. And these farmers, most of them was, if you farmed a lot of ground, he was a lot of guys got exempted for a while, but even though we was exempted, you just felt like you shouldn't be there. You should be helping to win. So that's why most of us just wouldn't turn down an exemption. And when you turned it down, you was drafted. You just didn't feel right to be in the home when all your friends went, and that's why I could probably never went, but I didn't feel right at all about it. And I had a brother who was in the service. My best friend, when he went, that's what I did, turned down exceptions. My best friend was, he had 4 brothers that was in the service, and one of them, the youngest one enlisted in the Navy. The oldest one was killed at Normandy, and then he had another one that was in the service. And then when he was a foreman, and then when he went, I said, that's when I went. You just didn't feel right. So that's how I got into service. When I was still 19, yeah.
Did your brother and your best friend both make it back?
Pardon?
Both your brother and your best friend, did they make it back after the war?
Oh yes, my brother was. He was in the Air Force too, and he was an instructor in helping the other guys in the flying air learning. He was a bombardier. Not a bombardier. He was, I think bombardiers were all officers, but he was this on the B-17s. Everybody was there was about, I think, 8 on total as far as manning machine guns and everything on B-17s. And that's what he was an instructor in that. And that's where he stayed. And he never did go overseas. And then my best friend went, he was in the infantry. He wound up going over just at the end of the war in Europe, and he was in Germany for a while. But I could say, then everybody was drafted when I went to the Pacific Theater. That's why, because they figured the war ended in Europe, and they figured I was going to need to invade Japan, but then, like I say, the bombs ended that. That's just about how I went, my life history as far as military, yeah.
What were some memorable experiences in World War II in the short amount of time that you were there?
You mean experiences as far as what?
While you were in as a radio operator.
Oh, well, it's that's the way, we was in a room in Tokyo. You'd never seen an airplane. I never seen an airplane. But we just knew what the weather was. We contacted the planes that was flying in from Okinawa. And as far as being, I never got off the ground myself. I was just stationed there in Tokyo, and we was told what to do, and we just sent it to the airplanes where they flew it. That was just what it amounted to. There was nothing exciting about as far as that goes. It was just a job to do. Yeah.